This video is made possible by Practical Defense Systems, the best online security training at the lowest prices. You can start your security career today online at pdsclasses.com. Check them out. Hi, this is Joel Persinger. I'm the Gun Guy. Thank you very much for all of your support. And particularly, I did a video just recently and announced the fact that I wasn't going to be able to do a lot of videos because my stepdad had passed away. And I appreciate your support there as well. Thank you for all the well wishes. I've been actually very overwhelmed by the number of people who've sent me emails and commented and sent their condolences. So I'm very grateful. My family's still working on that. We did disappear for a short time because we just needed a breather. We left for the weekend to go up and look at an off-grid property we wanted to buy. We did buy it. By the way, we bought it. So let me show it to you. So here, I'll do it real quick, and then we'll get on with Rick here. This is the property that we bought. And it is over by right close to the White Mountains in not terribly far from Sholo, which is in Arizona. It's a beautiful part of the country. We looked at this lot. We've been looking at a number of lots, and we actually were able to get it at a really wonderful price. So I'm very, very grateful. And so, yes, that is my school bus yellow truck parked in the middle of the lot. The lot is 37 acres. So we were able to get 37 acres and get it in escrow, and it should close in the next couple of days, which is very cool. And then we left all that beauty, and we came back to San Diego County to come back to that. And then, of course, fortunately, we never got real close to that. That is not us standing there. It's just a picture I pulled off the web. But it was a little smoky when we got home. So in any case, I've got my good friend Rick Travis here with me. Let's get on with what we were talking about. Rick is going to give us an update on what's going on with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is where Duncan v. Becerra is. And as you may or may not know, we just had a favorable ruling. And then, of course, the Attorney General of the state of California requested an en banc review. So if you could explain to us where we are and where we're going, Rick, I would really appreciate that.
Yeah, it'd be great. I mean, often, Joel, we talk about the fact that what happens in California is not isolated to California. I know you get questioned. I get questioned all the time. Even some of the people that would be in the middle or in direct opposition to us are like, well, can you prove that? And today is one of those unique days that, yes, it's going to be quite easy to prove. I'm going to go through the list and show people just what's going on. So obviously, Becerra made an argument to the Ninth Circuit that he wants an en banc, that he doesn't believe in the ruling of the three-judge panel, and so wants them to be judged by 11 other fellow justices within the Ninth Circuit and to get their opinion and see if that opinion won't sway to him. And either way, if they were to get a favorable ruling, as I've said before, California Rifle Pistol Association is already geared up to kick this up to the next level, which would be the Supreme Court. But what I thought would be interesting was to show the people that follow this show, follow us, support everything that you do and I do and others like us in the 2A community do, just why the whole idea of, I'm going to leave California and avoid this doesn't quite work. Second part of what I hope to be able to show in this amicus, which is Friends of the Court brief, that is being filed on behalf of the state of California, not on behalf of any of us listening to this program, that it's very interesting to see who the players are and the angles they're taking. Now, we are at this time not asking for any amicus briefs because there's no point in it. Right now, we already know that if we go to an en banc, we're going to fight. At that point, hopefully, Joel, you'll have me back on the show, and then I could do a shout out to various other groups to have them at that point file a Friends of the Court brief supporting our position. But right now, this is the fight for their position. And I think it's important that we understand who the players are against us.
One of the things that is very telling, by the way, when you look at if you go on Michelle and Associates and you look under there, you see this long list of amicus briefs that you mentioned. Here's a list real quick if you want, just to run it off for you. Amicus brief of the District of Columbia, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington in support of the appellant's petition for rehearing en banc. By the way, if you think about all of those places are all Democrat-led. Here's another one. Amicus brief of California chapter of the American College of Emergency Physicians, American Academy of Pediatricians, California, and California Academy of Family Physicians in support of appellant's petition for rehearing en banc. Let's see, that's all the doctors who don't want you to have a gun because they feel like they need to get in your business and create a disease out of firearms ownership. Here's another one, the amicus brief of March of Our Lives Action Fund. Well, these are all the same people, by the way, funded by the same guy, but let's list them anyway. March of Our Lives Action Fund, Brady, Everytown for Gun Safety, Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence, and Team Enough in support of appellant's position for rehearing en banc. This is one of those examples of one guy funding a whole lot of groups, so it makes it look like it's a whole lot of groups, but it's actually one guy. Gee, I wonder who that could be.
It kind of reminds me of an iceberg from New York. Oh, Bloomberg.
Oh, yeah, that would be Bloomberg. That's right. All right, here we go. Here's another one. Amicus brief of Pride Fund to End Gun Violence, Equity California, and Gays Against Guns in support of appellant's petition for rehearing en banc. By the way, the Pink Pistols would probably file a brief that would just absolutely slaughter that one, but that's just me. Go ahead.
And wait, they get grants from who? Oh, wait, that same guy from
that would be Bloomberg. So far we got all these groups are all funded by the same guy, and this is one of those games that they play to look like it's a bunch of different groups when really it's just one. Amicus brief of the City and County of San Francisco. Gee, that's a surprise. The City of Alameda, and the cities of Calabasas, Los Angeles, Oakland, San Diego, Santa Monica, Sunnyvale, and West Hollywood in support of appellant's petition for rehearing en banc. So what you have is a whole stack of very liberal groups piling on, as Rick said, with all these amicus briefs. And so you say to yourself, gee, it's just us, right? Well, wait a minute. Look at the one I read first. District of Columbia, Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington. Okay, wait. Now, let me ask you this, Rick. Do all of those places magically fall under the Ninth Circuit?
No, they do not.
Then why are they so concerned about this?
Because what those states are trying to do is use what happens in California to do the same kind of laws in their states and in their federal districts. And this is the point I'm trying to make to people. When I make the comment, you make the comment, others like us, Sam Protis, I know you have on here, makes the comment that these are well-orchestrated movements to destroy the culture of gun ownership, not just in California, but across the nation. And they invest a lot of money in here. And this fight is not just a fight for the state of California, which is why I say to people outside the state, as well as people in this state, this is a fight for the very heart and soul of the Constitution and that of the Second Amendment. And looking at these different, I think it's interesting because, you see 16 states, and immediately the gut reaction I've got from some people in the last day and a half since this, was filed was like, oh my gosh, Rick, we're outnumbered. Okay, number one, 16 is not outnumbered. You would need at least 26 states to be outnumbering. But it's also interesting to look at who some of the key players in key relationships who are putting their fingers into this. And so I wanted to look at a couple of those. Number one, this is filed directly, as you can see, Joel, from looking at it online, by Carl Racine, who is the Attorney General for the District of Columbia. That's Washington, D.C. So where have we heard that name recently inside the Second Amendment movement? Oh, it's Carl Racine, along with his pal, the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James. They've been trying to dismantle the National Rifle Association for the past year, and not necessarily doing it legally, and trying to try everybody and anybody in the court of public opinion. When these are two attorney generals who are by themselves attorneys who took an oath that people are innocent until proven guilty, but they have not played their political game that way. They have already labeled everybody that's ever worked at the NRA as being guilty before they've ever had a day in court. And shock and awe, they're coming over to help Gavin Newsom, a Democrat who is related to several key Democrats in the party across the country. They're coming out to help Nancy Pelosi. They're coming out to help all the other Democrats, including Senator Kamala Harris, who's running for vice president of the United States this year. And these people keep coming out saying, we're not anti-Second Amendment. But let's start looking at who they're bringing into this fight, because Letitia James is evidently If you don't understand she's anti-2A, I don't know what somebody has to do to demonstrate that. Carl Restine is definitely anti-2A. But what's fun is when you go to the back of the amicus brief, you actually get to see the names. And this is one of the things I want to get through to people. You know, you can read the amicus, but go back to see who the key players are that are signing their names. I mean, we talk about this in, looking at the signers of the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. Well, let's look at the signers of this amicus brief. One of my favorites, and I'm being sarcastic, is from the state of Illinois, not in the Ninth Circuit, home of Rahm Emanuel, Chicago, all the shenanigans and death tolls and everything that's been going on until recently when the federal government stepped in and was able to reinforce some laws. But I mean, if you want to see what America looks like under this kind of a leadership, look to cities like Portland, Seattle, Chicago, and you'll see what America will look like if Donald J. Trump's not reelected. But more importantly, let's look at Kwame Raoul. Kwame Raoul is the Attorney General for the state of Illinois. Best friends with with Rahm Emanuel, who was the head of the Obama White House. So you can see the direct chain that is going on there. This is an anti-gun agenda, an anti-gun attorney general. He has never saw something that wasn't anti-2A that he didn't like and didn't jump on the bandwagon. You can go to, the state of Delaware. Joel, who's popular in politics right now is from the state of Delaware?
That would be Joe, Slow Joe, Basement, Hayden Biden.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, okay. Wait, did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
I
all
did
the
something.
bells are dinging,
hey,
lights are flashing.
Give me a cheroot.
and one of the things is, it is horrible when any parent, including Joe Biden, loses a child. But his son Beau was the previous Attorney General for the state of Delaware, and his replacement, Kathleen Jennings, had a lot of support from Beau's father, Joe Biden. Joe Biden and her get together. They've done campaign things together. So you got to look at this. This is one of Biden's people who is signing on to this. This is Biden who's like, oh, I believe you should have a shotgun, probably nothing else but a shotgun, doesn't understand the proper use of a shotgun by his own admission.
Fired 2 blasts.
Right.
In the air. And you only got a double-barrel shotgun, so now you're defenseless. But fire 2 blasts in the air, which, by the way, is illegal in most places.
Right.
Just so you know.
But my point is, this is yet another connection. And as you start to go down through each of these, as you correctly said, you're going to find they're liberal, leftist, elitist Democrats who are all connected to Biden, Harris, Bloomberg, all the usual suspects. So when we do say, Gun Owners of California, the NRA, California Rifle Pistol Association, other 2A groups, this is a well-organized, well-oiled machine. And your friends are going, well, where's the proof? Look at the back page of this amicus brief on the Ninth Circuit, and you will see it. It's right there in black and white. All the players, all lined up, very proud of what they're doing. And all funded from basically 1 or 2 people at all times who just put a different name on it to make it look like it's more. And unfortunately, a lot of our people are like, oh, we're outnumbered. No, that's like, Joel, you and I sitting there saying, we're going to form a hunting club to come on your new property. And there's the Rick Elk Club, and there's this Elk Club, and there's that Elk Club. And we all show up to hunt on one property. We're one club. We're not 12 different clubs.
No, we're just one. That's right.
Different national organizations. But in the Democratic world, that is the game they play because optically people don't look to see who's behind it. It's one group.
Well, the interesting thing, too, and I probably should clear this up because I know somebody's going to ask me, no, we're not moving. That's not why we bought the property. We bought the property because this is a lifelong dream of mine to have a property where I can go hunt, camp, and do the things I wish to do without having to stumble all over everybody else on public land. And it came up. We were able to do it. It borders state trust land, so we've got millions of acres out there. And so we did it. At some point or other, we might put a cabin on it, but no. We have no desire to move. So if you're in California and you're freaking out because you think the gun guy is moving, no, we're not. That's not why we bought the property. So there you are. So it is important, though, to stay and fight the fight in these states where the fight exists. And so if you're moving for economic reasons, it makes a lot of sense. But to pack up and leave and abandon the fight then leaves you at the mercy of whatever comes out of these liberal states, which then starts marching across the nation. That's one of the reasons why I keep saying we need to stay and fight in states like California and New Jersey and New York and Maryland and like that. Because if we don't fight there, we're going to end up fighting in all these other states. And you may have yourself a rural property, or like we bought the off-grid property there to put a cabin on it, and you think you're going to go live there and be safe, and you're going to be safe from all of this. No, you're probably not, unless we fight it where the fight needs to be fought, which is where the battle is. And right now it is in places like California.
And one of the points I want to make too is, I think our listeners, when we go on these shows, are better educated because of all the fine work you do with the different people you have on your show, Joel. But we're looking at a very narrow window of what Attorney General Becerra does, because we're looking at what he does and how it impacts the Second Amendment and the activities that are derived from the Second, First Amendments. And so we take that viewpoint of it. But, I challenge you, the good people of Minnesota, my wife has family back there, they're hunters and stuff. I guarantee you they have no idea that Keith Ellison has jumped on the bandwagon in California to fight this. And that Keith Ellison, if they were successful and they won, and the Supreme Court turned on us and we didn't win it, Keith Ellison would be the first Attorney General to take that and say, okay, Minnesota, we're doing this because this is now going to be law of the land. I mean, they're looking for that because this is great political opportunity for them to bring something in from another state and say, well, it's already happened in California. It's already happened over here. So why wouldn't it happen there? And unfortunately, a lot of the electorate takes on the attitude of, because they're not watching their attorney generals. They're not seeing what their attorney generals are doing and what they're signing on. And I guarantee you, these people aren't grandstanding in many of these states like New Mexico and stuff, where it's a tight balance on the Second Amendment community. They're not out there going, oh, guess what I signed on? They're like sliding it under the legal carpet, and they won't bring it out into the public eye unless somebody like me brings it out, or you bring it out, and others, and it gets picked up. And so that's one of the things I'm hoping, because I know you got a following outside the state of California, that some of these people on these states will be like, what? Wait, what? What are they doing? Because that's your taxpayer dollars that are going to fight a fight you don't believe in another state. And I guarantee you, none of you would think Joel or Rick was very popular if we started coming in and tell you how you should run things with the Second Amendment in your home state.
Well, as we look at this case in particular, Rick, as you said, people are starting to freak out because they're starting to see all these amicus briefs stacking up, and we're not filing any. Right. Can you explain in a little bit, maybe a little bit more detail for the average person, because that's me? Why aren't we filing any? And how does this process work? And at what point, if we're going to fight, do we actually fight?
Sure. So in this phase, this is the government, being the state of California, that is whining, we do not like the decision of the 3-judge panel within the Ninth Circuit. So what they have done in this part is they've asked other states to agree with them, to come alongside, which there were 16 that did so, a couple of medical groups, and obviously all the anti-gun groups that Bloomberg could assemble, because he basically funds all of them, came together and wrote amicus briefs. Are we surprised? No, we knew this was coming. In fact, I had said as much in a couple of your previous episodes. So we are not filing anything because we're not going to waste our gunpowder, so to speak, on this part of the fight, because now what's going to happen is once this part of it is closed down, which happens, I think, later this week, early next week, I'd have to go back and look at the judicial calendar, but there will be a chance for us to respond. We'll respond to some of the issues that they brought up. And then after that closes, we will ask for amicus briefs from like-minded organizations nationwide to be filed of why the 3-judge panel should be upheld and there should not be an 11-judge en banc. And that will create part of the backstory that will go in the event we need to appeal this to the Supreme Court. And that's why I said when we first got the win, there was a part of us that knew that this would play out the way it's playing out thus far. And there's 2 points. There's the point of we just want to go grab our magazines in California and in the Ninth Circuit in the case of this ruling. And that would be great. What would be better, though, is I want everyone to think about those 16 names on the amicus brief. Those are 16 other areas that would like to see the same law applied to the people of their communities and their states and their districts. So for us, if this kicks to the Supreme Court and we get that ruling we want on strict scrutiny and that they can't do this with magazines and they're violating commerce laws and all the other things that we have cited under the Constitution, then this becomes law of the land, and we've shut down not just those 16 attorney generals, but everybody else in the process moving forward. So this is a much bigger game that is being played. But the point I wanted to come on and talk to you and your folks about, Joel, was the point of this is kind of education, letting you guys see how this game is being played, letting you see what your opposition is doing, letting you see where taxpayer dollars, not just in California, but elsewhere are going. And this is a point that all of you should be asking simple questions. And this is the third set of questions I often ask. I look at Californians. I have somebody in my neighborhood who's trying to campaign for a couple of Democrats, including the Vice President, Joe Biden. And, the question I asked him the other day, as I said, well, let's just keep this argument to California. He's like, okay, fair enough. I said, because this is America. We're allowed to have different opinions. That's what makes this country great. He goes, agreed. And I said, can you justify the amount of money being spent by this state against what we're trying to do after not one, not two, but 3 courts in a row have said they're wrong? When we have potholes, when we have freeways that are failing, when we have healthcare that's not working the right way, we don't have enough firemen to fight the fires. It's currently raining ash from one end of the state to the other. And he said, that's one of the best arguments you ever made, because no, that kind of, and then he used a derogatory term. I didn't have to fight. I just had to point out, do you realize how much of the money from your pocket is going to the state to handle this issue when all these other issues that are more important to you aren't being addressed? Do they have their priorities correct?
So when we look at it strikes me that there's a game being played here that's very effective. If I were a football player, for example, which I'm arguably too old to be and probably too small to be, and I don't play football well enough, although I do love the game. But if I were a football coach, let's put it this way, or even a football player, and I knew I could, or an owner, and I knew I could go play against an opponent, and before we had to play the game, they had to give me their entire playbook, but I didn't have to give them mine. And then we could go play the game. Wouldn't that be really cool for me? Right. Well, it seems to me that's what's happening with these amicus briefs, and it's really not something for us to freak out about, because while we're sitting back watching them file their arguments, we get a chance to look at their whole stinking playbook. And then at that point, we get to respond. We get to go in there with our playbook and play the game. They have kind of seen that in the sense that we argued the case. But do they get then to respond to our response, or is it pretty much... It goes
to the judges, and the judges have to make their decision.
How nice is that? Then we probably ought to be thrilled that we're not filing any briefs at this moment, because we're waiting to see exactly what the playbook of our opponents are, and then we can respond, and then it goes to the judges.
Right, and that's why I wanted to talk to your folks about, because I think there's a lot of misinformation, and there gets to be a lot of frustration of, well, why aren't those guys jumping down their throats right now?
I felt that way. When I read it before we did the interview, I was thinking, why aren't we doing anything?
Right.
So, no, I totally get it.
Yeah.
Well, we're not doing anything because strategically it makes more sense to just wait and see what the playbook is.
Actually, we are doing stuff. We're just not filing yet.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said it that way. Why aren't we filing any amicus briefs is what was going on in my head. How come they got all these anti-gunners are here and there's nothing in there on our side? And now the answer is because we want to see what their playbook is. And when they're done, then we'll file ours. And then at that point, we can refute everything they say rather easily that way.
An interesting point that I would share from debate is if you look at most collegiate debates and world debates where the whole subject debate is at, you will find that there's two sides to every debate, the government side of advocacy and the opposition. And more often than not, opposition wins. And the reason is even though the government gets the last moment to say something, the opposition has the most time to refute because government has to put its case forward. And that allows the opposition to choose which parts of the government's case and at what angle of attack that they want to go on. And so that's really the brilliant part of where we sit right now, because even though, we filed it and they went against us, it is the government versus us, the loyal opposition. And we're in a good place. And that was part of my message today was don't panic, don't freak out. This is a good place. And this is not a crisis moment of like, wow, we didn't see this coming. This isn't equated to Gunmageddon or anything else. This is, we knew we were going to be here. We've planned for it. Everything's being executed on schedule the way we thought it would be. And so,
and as I said, we have the opportunity to see what their argument is before we respond, and then they don't get to respond beyond that. So whatever we say to refute them, they're kind of stuck with. They don't have the same opportunity. That's actually fairly advantageous for our side, it would seem to me.
And, you know, at the end of the day, we can wrap it here, but at the end of the day, this is only going to go down one of two roads. Either the en banc won't be granted, and yay, we won for the Ninth Circuit.
Hooray.
Or it is granted, and we either win that or we don't. And if we don't, we go to the Supreme Court, where right now, most likely we would win. So,
well, okay, and let me ask you a question about that, because you say that, and I can hear it already. I can already see the comments. Yeah, but the Chief Justice is a turd, and he's gone against us, and he's this and he's that. And I have to admit, that dude worries the tar out of me. So when you say most likely we would win that, I'm not even 100%. I'm not even sure that most likely they would hear the case at this point. And I'm not sure that most likely we would win it if they did. So help me understand, why is it you feel that way?
So I feel that way personally, and I'm not the only one, so that makes me feel good. But I personally feel that way for a couple of reasons. One, and it's a bit of a crystal ball, you know, the election's going to end up with one of two men in charge of the country. So if it's Biden, we're going to have bigger problems than just Duncan versus Becerra, because it is going to be an onslaught of the likes we've never seen against the Second Amendment and the culture of gun ownership and the Constitution of this country. And I wholeheartedly believe that what we're seeing in the streets will be magnified several times over. If it is, and at that point too, you're looking at Biden will probably change the face of the court, and or Harris, depending on how that relationship works out. They will change the face of the court for the next at least generation, because at that point, Ginsburg and a couple of the others on the court will most likely step down and retire under a Democratic presidency. And as a result, they will probably lean even farther to the left than they already are, which would be detrimental to the Constitution and the American way of life. In a world where Donald Trump wins on November 3rd, then what you're looking at is odds are on a couple of the justices lasting 4 years to the next election is highly unlikely, which means at that point, President Trump, based on the actions he's already shown in the federal courts, will continue to push the balance of the courts more conservative. So some cases may never make it to the Supreme Court because the district courts will settle it out. But in this case, Duncan v. Becerra would not go to the Supreme Court till obviously after the November 3rd election. And so you're looking at a Supreme Court that if Donald Trump wins, it probably wouldn't matter where Chief Roberts was, because even though he tends to put his finger in the air and tries to see where the political winds are blowing, by that point the winds would have blown solidly in one direction. And it's highly unlikely that either A, he would vote that way, or B, that the vote might not even be needed. He would be one of the four against, because we'd have that fifth justice on our side.
So you mentioned two justices that might not make it. One obviously is Ginsburg, because they roll her in and out of the freezer. They take her out whenever they want her.
Debated all the time by who else.
I was going to say, who's the other one? Because now you got me curious. I don't know.
There's like talks all the time, and I don't get into that much of the political weeds. That's why I just say there's two.
By the way, who's paying for this lawsuit now?
That's the California Rifle Pistol Association.
Who needs the money? Who needs the money to fund that sucker now?
And I need to do a shout out.
Do it.
Brownells is an incredible organization. A lot of us have used Brownells for years.
Yeah.
And the Brownells family donated $50,000 towards this fight.
Wow, that's awesome.
So if you can, support Brownells, because they're supporting your rights.
Absolutely. I will put a link to the Brownells website in the description. So if you haven't purchased from Brownells, please do. And obviously, I wanted that out there because you need to know these things are very, very costly, and CRPA is footing the bill for this fight. So if you are not a member of CRPA, please join. And then if you would please remember that the membership fee is very, very small, and it is not going to support the organization or support these suits. So if anything you can do as far as contributing, contributing, please do. Any help you can provide, please provide it. The battle needs to be fought here in order to save you wherever you are from having to deal with it if you're outside of this state.
And there's one last way, Joel, that they can help out. I know a lot of people right now have to buy things because of COVID. They can't go to marketplaces and different things. You can go, if you buy things through Amazon, you can go to Amazon Smiles. You can type in the California Rifle Pistol Association Foundation. And this is kind of cool to me. Probably get yelled at by somebody for saying this, but Jeff Bezos hasn't been the favored friend of the Second Amendment.
No, but you can pick his pocket and put some money in CRPA's pocket. You can actually do that.
Take 2% of all of the things that you purchase. Jeff Bezos will match and send to the CRPA Foundation, and that helps out tremendously. We have people that just buy the regular stuff. And
what was that percentage again? What was that percentage again?
2%. 2.
So 2% of everything I buy on Amazon, if I select CRPA as my Amazon Smiles thing,
right,
then 2% of what I pay goes to CRPA, and then Amazon matches that 2%. Do you then get 4%?
I'm not sure if they're matching it. I know for a fact 2% goes to us.
Okay, well, one way or the other, it helps.
Yeah.
Right. One way or the other, it helps. So there's multiple ways to do it. Nice part about that is if you do that, it doesn't cost you anything.
Correct.
And you still get to contribute. You're just buying what you're buying. So if you're buying anyway, it costs you nothing, and you can help out CRPA, so please do. Well, Rick, is there anything else we should talk about?
There's always stuff to talk about, but no, that's good for today.
Okay, well, thank you very much for coming on the show. We'll have you on again when there's something new that we need to talk about, okay?
Right, thank you.
You are quite welcome. Thanks, Rick, for coming on. And thank you for watching. If you've been watching this long, you're really a Second Amendment supporter. I do ask you to join CRPA if you haven't already done so. And please do support them. This is costing a lot of money, and they're fighting very diligently for your rights. Have a wonderful week, and wherever you go, whatever you do, please be safe.